Hey guys, what's up? This is what we got to work with today. I am driving to my family's house for Thanksgiving, and Bitcoin is been scratching at 100K recently. Once I get set up, probably in the next few days, I'll have a laptop and I will have more of a quiet setup where I can talk and maybe set up like OBS or something and get some facts on the screen, maybe some charts, maybe some news. I do want to go through Satoshi's emails. Maybe I'll make a little series on that, just reading them and having a little commentary on that. It looks like this is going to be a good end of the year for cryptocurrencies, so we'll see. I have about 6 hours of driving, so I'll probably be listening to podcasts and just hanging out. But I am working on an intro. I was working on it all the way up until like 3 in the morning. Just a little animated thing, so I have something to put before my videos. And I'm not happy with it at all, just like most things that I make, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that's just that. And I can't wait till the new year. I mean, I really think 2025 is going to be good for cryptocurrency. I'm doing pretty well. I think most people who bought are in profit, unless you bought something stupid that went down recently. And I know this isn't not like a deep philosophical video at all or anything, just kind of doing an update on what's going on, and I'll probably post it later tonight when I get where I'm going. And thanks for hanging out. Hey guys, what's up? So I just recorded a whole video, and maybe that was a good idea. It was like 14 minutes long, but it was a good idea to do it ahead of time because I forgot to turn my mic on, and so that's gone. Yay! So I was listening to a podcast debate while I was driving. I've been driving for a few hours now, between Peter Schiff and Robert Breedlove. And one is a gold bug, Peter Schiff, and the other is a Bitcoin maximalist, Breedlove. And they get a lot of definitions wrong, and it's kind of a waste of time in these debates, and both of them have the definitions wrong. I will say Peter Schiff was more correct than Breedlove as far as his definitions, but it doesn't really matter because they both get the whole thing wrong. So I would like to talk about commodity versus fiat. I would like to talk about inflation, and I'd like to talk about currency versus money, because they like to play these games with these words. So both sides will tell you money and currency are two different things, when in fact the definition is very simple. And I want to go over these three subjects very quickly so it doesn't escape your mind, and then I'll ramble. So money is anything that is used to transact. So any commodity can be money, and any fiat can be money. As long as it's used to transact, it doesn't matter if the government decreed it, or it doesn't matter if some people agreed to use it. If it's used to transact, it's money. The end. It doesn't matter if it's a barter system. You were using pigs as money. Whatever. They were money that at the time that you used them for transaction. The other thing is they like to conflate money and currency. Currency is different than money. Currency is a promise. Blah, blah, blah. No. Currency is just money of an area. So basically, if people agree to use money in an area, or people are told by the government that this is what we use as money, both of those things are currency. So if someone will only accept in a certain area, if the people in that area will only accept sand dollars as money, that's their currency. That's what the word currency was meant to describe. It's not different than money in that it just describes it's that person's money. That's all it means. There's no huge discrepancy, and that we need to fight over, money is better, and this is a currency, and this is money, and money's more real. No. Currency is just what's real to a particular person, and that's what the definition means. It just means that guy's money versus what I use for money. I have my currency, that guy has his currency. They're both money though. They don't stop being money as soon as they become a currency. So I want to be very clear about these definitions because they will try to separate them and they'll try to use these word games to try to trick people. Fiat is money by decree. That's it. It just means that there are rules that turn it into money. There are rules that make it money. The end. And usually when that money is used by rules, it can only happen in a certain area, and therefore it gets called a currency. It's currency, is money, is fiat. It's the same shit, just different origins. So let's go off of inflation now. So the other word they like to bastardize is inflation. The government uses inflation to just say consumer price index or price inflation. Prices can't inflate. You can't increase the number of prices. You either charge more or you charge less and someone buys it or they don't. There isn't more of something because you increase the price. Now, if you inflate the money supply, that's real inflation. You've created more fiat or more commodities or more gold in the system, whatever it is, and now there's more of it, and that's inflation. The trickle-down effect of inflation is that prices can go up because there's more of something. Well, I think you should have to pay me more of it to get some of my things. So it depends on the moreness or the lessness of the things you're trading. But the prices aren't the inflation. They're how much you want someone to pay you because of the inflation. So we can't even talk about inflation because we only say inflation and then mean price. Inflation is just the amount of money in circulation, and they lie about it all the time. So we can't even talk about that subject because the terms become so corrupted. Now, Peter Schiff was the closest to getting it right, and he said that price inflation doesn't exist, and I agree with him. But he didn't go further to say what happened in the 1860s, where there used to be runs on the bank. And when there were bank runs, they were not trusted. Actually, bankers were trusted less than lawyers and politicians back in the day because they would inflate their books. Basically, they would write more money than they had, increasing the money supply, and then when people would go to get their money, they wouldn't have it. Then there would be a run on the bank, and that inflation would crash, and we'd have a deflationary environment. Therefore, deflation gets a bad name, and inflation gets somehow pushed off to prices. Like, it's not our fault the inflation happens. And actually, what the bankers did is they said, well, if the prices aren't going up that fast, or if they're only going up at 2%, then that means we're not cooking the books. That was their great proof. The market grows at a certain percentage rate. Therefore, well, here's the thing. The market grows at a higher percentage rate, and they've been printing themselves money. Not good, guys. So that's what happens when you don't know the definitions of words. You don't even know where to look for the problem. The problem is on the bankers' balance sheets. That's why they're too big to fail. That's why the government bails them out. And that's why the government is the main source of inflation. And here's another problem with that. Inflation is actually good. Bitcoin is inflationary at the moment. It's going to become deflationary once it stops having new supply issuance. But it's disinflationary in a way, in that it produces less and less Bitcoin over time, becomes harder and harder to get. In about 120 years, you won't be able to get new Bitcoin anymore, but I think there will be solutions to that. I doubt technology won't change in 120 years. So I really want to push this point home. Like, inflation is the increase of the money supply. I can't say it enough times. Fiat and money and currency are all the same things. Now, there's commodity money, there's fiat money, and there's currency, which is money. And they come from different areas, but as soon as you use them as money, they become money. And you can argue over which one is better and which one you want to use as money, but doesn't make one not money. And that's what they like to do. They like to say one is not money and one is. Peter Schiff will tell you that only commodity money is real. I don't think that's true, because you can have money saying what the value of a network is and exchange it, and people will accept it. And I think anything that you accept for payment is money. And Bitcoin has a valuable network, and the ledger is where the value is, and Peter can't see that. On the other side, Breedlove can't see that like Bitcoin is fiat, and that's a big sticking point for maximalists. They hate that. They hate that Bitcoin could be fiat. But if you follow what fiat is, which is money by decree, and you can't have value of a network except for by decree, because you have to say, hey, this network is valuable, and I'm going to issue these tokens, and these tokens will allow me to trade a portion of a value of being able to sign in this ledger. And by doing so, you've created rules, and those rules make decrees, and those decrees are Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is fiat, all crypto is fiat, and they hate this fact. And I think I consolidated everything I said before in a much shorter period of time, and I feel like I may have been long-winded about it, like just rambling, but I want to get to those 3 points, like, or maybe it's 4, but Bitcoin is fiat. Fiat is money. Money is anything that can be exchanged. Inflation is when you increase the money supply. It doesn't matter what type of money it is. Increasing the supply of it is inflation. And it's that simple. And if we could get, I think, as a society to the point of recognizing that, I think it would be easier to tell when politicians are lying. I think it'd be easier for us to vote and know, like, maybe we would vote less on these superfluous social things if we knew the outcome of markets, because markets are very social. And if you have freedom in a market, the laws really can't like hurt you that much. So if you have freedom to transact, you can pretty much get whatever healthcare you want, because you're going to be prosperous and you'll be able to pay for it. Having to turn everything into a right, especially services. Once services start becoming rights, that means you don't have a free economy, and the economy is not providing it, probably because the economy is being squeezed by too many regulations. I mean, we're really close to like Chinese level overregulation. I mean, even the Chinese are saying like most of our workers are spending too much time on pretending they're following regulations and making up new rule books, and just it's bogging down even their systems to the point where they're like, yeah, we may have a top-down centralized government, but this is out of control. And I think that change is coming to the US as well. Whether you like the new administration or not, I think it really comes down to, do you want prosperity and do you have faith in humanity? Will everybody being richer and better able to take care of themselves make the world a better place? I think it will, because I think everyone working together with their own best interests at heart, not wanting to cheat anyone else, and knowing that they can make a fair life. Why would you go the more difficult route of risking it all to go to jail? It makes no sense to me. The reason you have a lot of crime is going to be mental illness or the inability to live the life you want to live. And I think the biggest factor is the inability to live the life you want to live. And so I am all for making the economy as strong as possible. And I think it starts there. And I think it starts with an understanding, which starts with, honestly, family, because you can't have a country without new people. And it starts with community, which that could be religion. It could be community service. It could be a career as a politician, even, or in a legal system. Like, you can do a lot of things to make things better, but I think anything that makes the economy better is going to make it easier for anyone trying to help, and even people trying to help themselves. I'm very much okay with people helping themselves in a system that helps them help themselves. So with that said, I know it's a more serious topic, And I really feel like these words are miscommunicated. No one looks up the definitions, and they get stuck reading like Bloomberg and Investopedia and get their definitions from that. When I'm reading stuff from like the 1800s and going, where the hell did we go wrong? What changed? And what changed is people wanted to exploit regular people and make more money. So do you want to use, I mean, you can say, oh, well, this is the real definition. Do you want to use the exploitive definition, or do you want to use the original definition where it was used to point out the bankers screwing you over? I'd rather use the original, because they're still using it for they still know what the original is. I want to know what the original is. So good luck out there trading, and I hope to talk to you guys again soon. Hey guys, so I was listening to my last video, and there's something I didn't expand on, which is inflation is good. So there's two types of inflation. There's centralized banking inflation, and then there's economic growth inflation. And I think it's important to know the difference between the two. So inflation through non-economic growth, or just cooking the books, or making a lot of toxic debt, or being the only issuer of debt through decree by the government, is very bad, and it's very centralized, and a few people control that inflation. I'm not saying you shouldn't be allowed to lend money to people and create money that way. I think that's a good way to create money. But when you have banking licenses, and when you have basically the government saying who is allowed to do it, and being the kingmaker, basically they set the rules and they decide how much inflation is, and they become the centralized controller of basically how much money is in the system. What you want is something where the activity in the economy, or the number of people making goods, and the amount of money that they need, they create their own money, and so they are able to increase the supply based off of how much they have, and it's done through individual interactions, way more interactions than the government could ever predict or come up with a number for. So I think there's good inflation, and I think there's bad inflation. And I think the problem that we have is, and I said this before, it's kind of like flat Earth, where we see the government as 100% bad, or flat earthers do, and that's how they got to their conclusion that we never went to the moon and the earth is flat, because the government says those things, and the government lied, and therefore everything the government has ever said or done is a lie, including incredible things like the earth being a globe or being flat. We do the same thing with inflation, unfortunately. In our industry, the cryptocurrency market, we have decided somehow that inflation is a giant evil, even though you can't have Bitcoin without inflating Bitcoin. You at least have to inflate it one time and have one Bitcoin. But we decided to have a schedule to have 21 million. So that's inflation. Anytime you create more of something, that's inflation. I think we went over that definition. Anytime you increase something, and prices aren't something you can increase, which is why I don't believe price inflation is a thing. So inflation is good. But I think it's important to point out when inflation is good, when it is controlled by the growth in the economy versus being controlled by central planners or central bankers, or some type of top-down system in which they have to pretend in their mind that they know what's good for everyone at the same time. So basically a one-size-fits-all instead of the size self-conforming. For an economy with billions of people, like a world economy, I think the self-fitting shoe, where it can shrink in different areas and grow in different areas, is the best solution. And I just wanted to clarify that point, because I heard myself talking and I kind of just said inflation is good. And if you were listening, you would have been, okay, where's the follow-up to that? And this is the follow-up to that. So thanks for listening.